Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Behind the Research, a segment of PT Meal Podcast in partnership with the Philippine Journal of Physical Therapy. So, in this segment, we will take a deep dive into the research and talk to the authors of select articles published in the Philippine Journal of Physical Therapy. In this episode, we will discuss the research entitled Framework for the Priority Actions of Filipino Physical Therapists in Disaster Risk Reduction and Management. So I'm pleased to have in the show the study's authors, Francis Clarence Chua and Dr. Cheryll Didi Nellie Obra. Francis is currently an instructor, one at the Mariano Marcos State University. He obtained his bachelor's degree in physical therapy at MMSU in 2017. Dr. Obra is currently a professor one at the same university, Mariano Marcos State University. She was awarded the 2022 Outstanding Professional of the Year in the field of physical therapy by the Professional Regulation Commission. And also, she received the 2017 Outstanding Teacher Award from the Mariano Marcos State University. Moreover, she was recognized as the best performing individual in health research in 2021 by the Region 1 Health Research and Development Consortium. Congratulations, Dr. Albra. So, also joining the conversation is Rolliane Simon, a local disaster risk reduction and management officer 3 in the municipality of San Nicolas, Ilocos Norte. So, welcome everyone, and I am thrilled for our discussion today.
Nice to
Sir,
be
good
here.
afternoon
Thank you for the
po.
invitation.
Yeah.
It's a
So,
pleasure to be here po.
thank you for being here and spending your time with us to really discuss this very interesting study that we have here. Uh, Before we start, and to give us a little context for our listeners and viewers, could you give us, Sir Francis, a brief overview or summary of what the study is about?
Okay po, sir. So, our study, as you had mentioned, is titled The Framework for the Priority Actions of Filipino Physical Therapists in Disaster Risk Reduction Management. So, this was conducted in order to develop a framework wherein physical therapists could be integrated into the disaster risk reduction and management initiatives of Ilocos Norte po. So, this was a mixed method study that utilized a research and development design. So 20 selected physical therapists were given a questionnaire to answer. Meanwhile, we were also able to interview 10 local disaster control office members, including the then provincial head. The results of the study showed that physical therapists had minimal exposure to disaster scenarios due to a lack of training and experiences in disaster response. But they perceive themselves as willing and prepared to participate in disaster management. The study also revealed that physical therapists are not a part of the local disaster management team because of limited awareness on the roles of physical therapists in disaster management. So the specific strategies for the priorities for actions of physical therapists in disaster management were identified based on the results of the study and its theoretical underpinnings, leading to the development of the action-oriented framework for physical therapists in disaster management, which we dub as the Nalagda framework. So,
Yeah. So as I've said earlier, this is a very interesting topic since the Philippines experience natural disasters year after year. We have floods, typhoons, flash floods, landslides, earthquakes. So this is, I mean, very apt for our setting in the Philippines. And what made you decide on this topic, and how did you come up with it?
well, this was actually our undergraduate study, me and my group mates. If okay lang po sir, shout out ko po pala sila, no? We have Mr. Carl Wencesley Padua, Miss Lovely Deos, and Miss Jesame Andres. So, me and my group mates, and our advisor actually was Dr. Obra po pala. So, yeah, that was a few years ago. So, the typical beginning of any student research writing involves two things: identifying a topic and formulating a question. And we started off just like with any other group, rejected ideas. although admittedly those were unpolished ideas.
Mhm.
However, we were thankful because those were simply a stepping stone towards the creation of an even more relevant research idea, and it began simply as a joke. My
Mhm.
group mates and I were mulling over our the revision of our research idea when we heard our instructor in organization and administration talk about climate change. So
Mhm.
we joke around saying that maybe we should look into physical therapy and climate change. One of us even humorously questioned the roles of PTs in climate change, saying that what can we do in climate change? Pick up trash, clean up the coastlines, and so
Mhm.
on. We laughed it off initially. However, the idea lingered onto us long enough until our ignorance towards it was wiped off. We eventually began to seriously question on what physical therapists could really do in climate change. Then the question evolved into what can PTs do when disaster comes? What can PTs do during emergencies? So that sort of stuck with us, and we
Mhm.
eventually winged it. We played with it until we were able to come up with our final output. Thankfully, with the guidance of our advisor, we were able to make it work.
Mhm.
So the novelty of the idea really stuck with us and greatly impacted our decision to stick with the topic. It was unique and at that time not talked about much. As cliche or exaggerated as I might sound, we felt as if we were on the precipice of an event that could help make revolutions in our profession. Of course, the fact that Ilocos Norte and by extension, the whole Philippines is disaster prone, especially towards earthquakes, typhoons, and their associated hazards such as floods and landslides,
Mhm.
played a huge role in the decision-making process. This was also around the time when major disaster events such as Typhoon Yolanda were still big talking points in the country. So
Mhm.
those were all the factors that led to us in pursuing this topic.
Right, right. I agree. So if back when I was a student and working in the Philippines, I the only thing that I think that PTs can do there is like volunteer in packing like relief goods or actually handing out relief goods, and that's the only thing that I could think of back then, that how can physical therapists help out in those situations. um I'm gonna ask Ma'am Rian, what in a nutshell, what does the Office of Disaster Risk Reduction and Management do in those times, when disaster hits?
Okay, so the Municipal Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Office does not only work during the
Mhm.
disaster itself.
Right.
We all know that there are four phases of disaster risk reduction and management, from prevention and mitigation, preparedness, response, and rehabilitation and recovery. So from all those four thematic areas, there are really a lot of works to be done
Mhm.
involving the members of the Dream Council, which includes now we include the members of the council as the civil society organizations,
Mhm.
our private sector, and other members which are regarded or which are included in the membership into the Dream Council as provided for the Republic Act 10121.
Mhm.
So while reviewing the research study of Mr. Chua and Dr. Obra, we come up with the thought that maybe these physical therapists can organize themselves and be members of the council as accredited or recognized ones, so that their involvement in disaster risk reduction and management can be extensive,
Mhm.
not only in those what you said, sir, that they can be in relief goods or anything na hindi that are simply simple activities, but also for the extensive ones like planning
Mhm.
and all other activities.
Mhm. All right. Thank you. That was my second question was about joining the management committee? Is it something that PTs have to apply, or the office has to reach out to the PTs? How does that happen?
Actually, the membership in the DRRM Council, we have four civil society organizations as provided for RA 10121. And to be a member of the council, they have to be accredited
Mm-hmm.
as members of civil society organizations. So their association, like Ilocos Norte Association of PTs, if that's the name of the organization, they can be accredited or recognized by the municipal government or the local government unit. They have to pass their accreditation requirements, such
Mm-hmm.
as um, Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC registration, or any
Oh.
um, certification from DTI or DOLE like that, or maybe the most is the SEC registration,
Mm-hmm.
so that and their members name of members, so that they can be accredited in the local government unit. Also,
Mm-hmm.
there is also a guideline in the accreditation of disaster volunteers, which the Office of Civil Defense is actually, they are the one who accredits the disaster volunteers, and make the PTs can also be a member of the disaster volunteers.
Gotcha. Because back then I thought like the council would only, make up with, the DILG, DOH and stuff like that. So that's good to know that PTs can apply that. So let me ask Dr. Albert. Dr. Albert, what do you think are the skills, or like basic education or training that um physical therapist naturally right now has, or after graduation and license, PTs have that can be useful in disaster management initiatives?
It is my belief that entry-level physical therapists already possess the requisite skills, knowledge, and professional behaviors that are needed for the RRM initiatives.
Mm-hmm.
I believe in terms of their clinical skills, they are already polished and they are already possessing such good skills that can be used during actual response and the recovery phases, during the response and recovery phases. But other than these clinical skills, they also possess non-clinical skills, particularly administrative skills, because they are part of their curriculum is uh, the organization and administration. This is where we can really help also during the mitigation and preparedness phase, wherein we can help the DRRMC or the DRRMO in terms of
Mm-hmm.
planning for either contingency planning or even planning for the vulnerable populations, wherein physical therapists are advocates of the PWDs and the elderly. We can also involve ourselves as community workers. That is also our education in line with community-based rehabilitation and community development. We can engage ourselves in community activities like needs assessment, community education, information
Mm-hmm.
dissemination, and all these things. And I think we are also trained to be educators, and I believe that education is part and parcel of the four phases of the RRM. We can, especially for mitigation and preparedness phase, wherein there is really a mass for us to have a very aggressive information dissemination and community education, so that the people in the community can be aware of what is to expect during disaster and how to protect themselves if ever, and if that scenario is already in there, then how they can help themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Those things I can think as the requisite skills that physical therapists already possess
Mm-hmm.
after their graduation.
Right. Nice, nice. Yeah. It's just a matter of applying those knowledge and skills in that scenario that we have. Well, would you think there would be a need for more training, like as uh the some of the, I mean, respondents would say that they're willing to participate in training, but would there be a need for further training to be able to fully say that you're well versed in the scenario of like disaster risk reduction and management?
If I may answer that, sir, I believe there is still a need for us physical therapists, although we possess already the requisite skills, knowledge, and professional behaviors to
Mm-hmm.
conduct ourselves during disasters, natural disasters. I believe that the concept of physical therapy in disaster risk reduction and management is quite novel,
Mm-hmm.
and that there are things to learn.
Mm-hmm.
So we may operate we have this idea that we may be operating as healthcare professionals. That is our real orientation. But I guess in the DRRM, it's more than you acting as a healthcare professional. So I think we have to also undergo formal training,
Mm-hmm.
or we can attend some seminars, conferences along this line of DRRM.
Mm-hmm. I see, ma'am. Rian was nodding. Were you about to share some insights in that?
Yes, sir. Actually, it's not only on the healthcare aspects that our physical therapists can help in the RRM,
Mm-hmm.
because and that phase there that will be the response phase, especially during the disaster. But they can also be trained on incident command system, which is the unseen disaster response.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually it's a system wherein there is a more adept or in-depth understanding of how to respond to emergencies. Not only that, it's the responsibility of the DRRMO or the MDRRM Council, but there is a structure which is the ICS organization where the organization of physical therapists or the physical therapist um, can be included not only on response, but they can be in planning, logistics, and also finance and administration. And also they can also help in the command staff of the incident command system, like safety officer. They can act as safety officer. They can
Mm-hmm.
also act as public information officer and liaison officer. if if they will be undergoing the incident command system training, also they can only also be trained on contingency planning, because there is really a training for contingency plans, for the formulation of contingency plans. And on and the part of the physical therapist, they can help all, most especially in the emerging and re-emerging infectious diseases, and that part and the formulation of the contingency plan for ARID, or the emerging and re-emerging infectious diseases. And
Mm-hmm.
also they can also help in they can also undergo trainings on, since they can also be utilized in data gathering, uh, a rapid damage assessment and needs analysis, on post-disaster needs analysis, and of course the pre-disaster risk assessment. They can all be a part of the trainings for as long as um, they are willing to to be called for in the training.
Mm-hmm.
There are so many trainings that our physical therapists can be
Can
involved
attend.
at,
Mm-hmm.
and can be they can come and join.
Mm-hmm.
However, their availability also is one of the considerations.
Right. I mean, hearing those roles and positions that physical therapists can go into in the realm of disaster risk reduction management. I mean, that alone is, it's very exciting and interesting to hear that uh in the future some of our physical therapists might want to go into those positions and would say like I may not be in the clinics. My passion may not be in the clinic. It might be in organization and community development in disaster risk reduction. I mean, that's so exciting. Like right now, hearing about that that's really exciting too. That's something to look forward to. We're going into different different avenues now of practice, and those that are not yet explored, like disaster medicine or emergency medicine, where physical therapists would not know, that they can do things like that. So amazing. So Sir Francis, in the study that you published, you also included the the Nalagda disaster framework. So in those, and you've mentioned different avenues where physical therapists can contribute to, also as Ma'am Rian mentioned as well. But in your opinion, where can PTs thrive or excel in that framework?
Okay, sir. So the easy answer for this would be to say that PTs would thrive under all phases of the
Mm-hmm.
Nalagda framework, as it was specifically designed for the priority actions of physical therapies and
Oh,
disaster
okay.
management. Yeah. However, if I had to nitpick and choose, I choose the recovery phase because the transition of physical therapy competencies would be the most seamless under that phase because the recovery phase emphasizes efforts to restore and recover from the damaging effects of the disaster. So under the recovery phase, uh, I believe that the transition of physical therapy competencies would be seamless.
Mm-hmm.
Under the recovery phase, there are actually three strategies outlined. Number one is post-disaster rehabilitation and healthcare services. Number two, community development programs. And number three, post-disaster planning and monitoring. So strategy one would be the phase of the Nalagda framework wherein most PTs would thrive in as we already pride ourselves as masters of rehabilitation and restoration.
Mm-hmm.
We pride ourselves in aiding individuals reestablish balance in their activities of daily living, work, leisure, and social participation. Under strategy two, I believe PTs would also strive under strategy two since we are also experts in community-based rehabilitation and we could facilitate accessible resources and services to the community and provide education and capacity building opportunities to the communities in need.
Mm-hmm.
Under strategy three, it would simply require a combination of the expertise needed from strategies one and two, specifically our ability to closely examine the needs and problems of our patients, as well as our ability to communicate and interact with the community to advocate for change.
Mm-hmm.
However, as Dr. Ovra had previously listed, there are many skills that physical therapists already possess that could be helpful in disaster management. And as Ma'am Rian had mentioned, with the right training, physical therapists could perform multiple roles under disaster management, which is I believe, the essence of the Nalagda framework. And it's that we're not locking physical therapists only under healthcare skills or services, and it's more of a sectoral or multi um, disciplinary approach towards addressing disaster management, in which I believe physical therapists are already experts in.
Mm-hmm.
We pride ourselves as flexible and versatile healthcare professionals. So that's why I said the easy answer for this question would be to say that all phases, physical therapists would thrive under all phases of the Nalagda framework, sir.
Yeah. And like, if anyone or any physical therapist want to, like, just dip their toes in uh trying it out, if that's for them, or if they feel that they can't, want to feel it out first, and see if they can really contribute, because I think the greatest barrier there is that this is unfamiliar territory for us. So we may have the skills and, the basic knowledge there, but having no experience with that, it would have, create some imposter syndrome. Might not be for me, or I may not be able to contribute there. So that would be where, the training comes in, and added, experience for that. So, at present, physical therapists, like clinicians and healthcare professionals in general, are, um, you know, uh, participating in disaster or emergency responses. is not as popular as doctors going to disasters, right? Doctors or nurses. But how can we raise awareness on the roles and capacities of PTs that they have, that they can play in the scenario of disaster risk reduction in management?
Well, the main strategy I could see that would help awareness is through utilizing the power of our technologies. We're already doing a part towards it, sir, with your interview, which we are really thankful for because we're already maximizing our information and communication technologies, especially with how the internet has evolved to become part of society's daily flow. So initiatives through social media play a large role in raising awareness. So we could highlight scientific researches and evidences, display testimonies of real life experiences from physical therapists, discuss our personal experiences if ever we have some, posts, PubMats, and other information and education materials. We could invite volunteers or members through social media.
Mm-hmm.
So we could host webinars and trainings there. So I really believe that one of the largest tools or most powerful tools that we have right now is the internet and social media in order to quickly raise awareness towards the roles of physical therapy in disaster management.
Mm, right. Sir Francis, after the publication of your study, or and when you were uh, producing it and writing it, have you had a chance in participating in any disaster risk reduction initiative locally in your area?
Well, personally for me, sir, the best I did was try to volunteer a few years back when a major typhoon hit our area. But beyond that, I really could say that I have not really had any major involvement or role in
Mm-hmm.
trying to participate in disaster risk reduction
Mm-hmm.
management initiatives.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right. Uh, Ma'am, Rian, is as you mentioned earlier, the organizations can uh, apply for accreditation in that. So can individual professionals also apply for being member of the council, or just share their knowledge or expertise?
Actually, sir, individuals can be members of the disaster volunteer groups,
Mm-hmm.
which the Office of Civil Defense is actually advocating.
Oh,
However, for a member for the council, there should be an organization.
I see. Mm-hmm.
So they have to be organized first with the necessary requirements, and then they have to be accredited in the local government unit as members of the local special bodies to be members of the council.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely, welcome naman lahat.
Mm-hmm.
All individuals are welcome in disaster risk reduction and management, because we believe that they have all the capacities,
Mm-hmm.
the knowledge and skills that they can share, not only their skills as PTs, but in other aspects that they have, like what Dr. Obra has mentioned a while back.
Mm-hmm. And yes, Dr. Abra.
Yes, sir. I think I fully agree with what Ma'am Ryan mentioned. Siguro, if there's one thing that limits physical therapies in the country, more particularly in the province, just like me, I really do not know the process of how to join the DRRM
Mm-hmm.
DRRM office for its different initiatives. So it's nice to know that as an individual you can really join,
Mm-hmm.
parang ganon. And well, for Ma'am Rian to know, we have an association here actually in Ilocos Norte. We are under the Philippine Physical Therapy Association Ilocos chapter. So
Doctor.
I think that is a consideration for our chapter now
Mm-hmm.
to have its accreditation with the MDRRM.
Mhm.
So, and looking at it right now, I think it's a good opportunity for us because, Sir Johan, we have already established our CBR clinic. We have partnered already with the municipality of San Nicolas, and we have a clinic already based in the municipal health office.
Mhm.
So at least we have with this partnership that we have started, maybe the MMSU faculty, I don't know, Ma'am Rian, if that is available, if that is possible for us to join as an extension of what we are already offering to the locality of San Nicolas.
Ma'am, maybe we can talk about it
Yeah.
Yeah,
with
in
the
separate.
proper, proper,
uh,
of course, with the proper uh, agreement or
uh,
understanding with the higher offices, with our
mhm,
higher
Yeah.
offices.
mhm.
And also, if it would be possible for you, I will be having a training on basic incident command system on the 19th to the 21st of October. Maybe two of you can join
Wow.
training
Yeah.
as an initial step.
Hmm.
Yes.
That's
Face to
amazing.
face po yun.
Hmm.
It will be conducted here in the municipality of San Nicolas.
Right. And PPTA Ilocos Norte chapter, right? Uh can be might be the pioneers in this, and that you're the first chapter to be joined in the uh disaster risk reduction management scene, and other chapters may follow you, like whatever you guys do there, since you're already in that your feet are already there. You already established a community-based rehab, and most of the initiatives are centered in community awareness and education and promotion. That is yeah, something that other chapters can look up to as a benchmark. So Dr. Auber, do you see, if ever physical therapists would go into this realm of disaster and emergencies, would you see it coming into the community-based rehab um, area, or would it have to be separate from it, since it's going to be like a different um, entity?
I think, sir, it would be better for it to be a niche specialization for physical therapy,
Mhm,
separate from the community-based rehabilitation,
mhm,
so that the focus is really on disaster risk reduction and management. I think the community-based rehabilitation has its own focus, of
mhm,
which the DRRM may not have the same, although the needed skills and knowledge may be overlapping, but it would be nice to see more physical therapists going to this niche of
mhm,
disaster activities.
mhm. Another specialization, right? All right. So, Sir Francis, how do you see your research impacting the profession, and later on, how do you see it take off in later years? What's next with after your research?
Well, in terms of impact, sir, as I've mentioned, me and my group mates had this cliched belief that, as I mentioned, we were on the precipice of an event that could help make revolutions in our profession, and it has only grown stronger as our study had advanced and evolved. So I believe, or we believe, that this study serves as a stepping stone for a whole new adventure for all physical therapists nationwide. This opens up a whole new dimension for the profession. This could allow for the unraveling of new practices, new techniques, new guidelines that are specific for this field of work. This study is an evidence that within disaster management, physical therapists could find a niche. It presents a new opportunity for physical therapists, especially for those who are inclined with what disaster management has to offer, such as emergency response, relief efforts, disaster preparedness, and so on and so forth. We believe that physical therapists by nature has always been one of the most flexible health professionals, whether by role or by setting. PTs may work within clinics, at home, at hospitals, at the gym, within schools, within offices, and in the field. This is simply another extension of our multiple roles and settings within our practice.
Mhm,
So this could also help physical therapists gain more recognition in the eyes of the community and the administration, something that I believe our whole community has been longing for a very long time. Lastly, this study, I believe, is an impetus for physical therapists to play a vital role in sustainable development and social responsibility. It allows us to contribute to the development and improvement of our society, especially the welfare of our stakeholders, especially those in need of our services, such as the elderly and the PWDs.
Mm-hmm.
Thus, it is required of us to establish actions and initiatives towards meeting their expectations. It is our social responsibility to focus on enhancing the accountability and transparency of our actions within social, ethical, environmental, and economic efforts, especially in a country that is as disaster prone as the Philippines.
Mm-hmm.
So, as to the next steps for our research, well, Dr. Obra we've had some conversations on possibly conducting a follow-up study towards the validation of this framework because, well, we could never fully say that this framework will work until it is validated. And again, there are many steps that we could use towards further enhancing physical therapy involvement under disaster risk reduction and management. We
Mm-hmm.
could try to look also of the possibility of maybe including it as a topic under our current physical therapy curriculum or just try to find ways on trying to inspire future generations
Right.
in trying to become advocates towards disaster management. And hopefully this leads to a chain of responsibility and volunteerism towards our nation.
Mm-hmm.
This could branch off into so many things since disaster management is a specific niche or a specific specialization. There are many other avenues related to it that maybe we could try to branch off of, such as uh, what we could do to impact climate change, the possibility of environmental physical therapy, which I believe is a new field also that is currently being advocated, and many more. But so many ideas running through our minds right now. But hopefully, one day we get to see the impact of our study towards our profession.
Mm-hmm. That's very exciting to stuff to look forward to, and we are going to, keep in touch with you guys to see how you're doing with the project and, you know, have you share with us what's going on, what's new in the scene of, disaster risk reduction and management in terms of physical therapy involvement and engagement. What I'm really excited with what you said is like with us physical therapists with all our skills and the knowledge that we have, it's not just applicable in the clinics, but uh, we being able to contribute in a bigger role with our community and the society, uh, not just in treating patients, but actually making a difference in terms of planning and policy and affecting a whole city or government or locality. So that's very exciting just with just the topic itself. It's very exciting. So um, thank you very much to everyone who gave their time with to us and this podcast in the discussion of the study entitled "Framework for the Priority Actions of Filipino Physical Therapists in Disaster Risk Reduction and Management." If our listeners and our viewers are curious to read about their study, it's available in the Philippine Journal of Physical Therapy. I will post the link with this episode so that you can come and visit and take a look at what they have published there. So, just last words for our viewers and our listeners. What message can you give to our physical therapists who are listening to our conversation and in terms of their participation in disaster risk reduction and management. Probably let's start with Ma'am Rian.
So, I can say that physical therapists have vital role in disaster risk reduction and management. We cannot deny the fact that DRRM approach in the Philippines is continuously evolving. In my own perspective as disaster manager, it is necessary to include physical therapists in DRRM since this concept entails multi-sectoral coordination. Thus, they are very knowledgeable in many ways which can lead to the attainment of the goal of DRRM to have a safer, adaptive, disaster resilient Filipino community towards sustainable development. So with this, I am very thankful to Dr. Obra and Sir Francis for choosing me as a reactor in their study, and to Sir Johan for this opportunity to be a part of this podcast interview. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ma'am Rian, for being here. You're always welcome. If you have anything to share with us and our audience, you're welcome to come back in the show. Dr. Albra.
Yes, sir, Johan, thank you so much for this opportunity to participate in this podcast and to disseminate more our research study. And I wish that the physical therapists out there could open their eyes and see that there is an opportunity for them to be involved in disaster risk reduction and management. May we not limit ourselves and confine ourselves in healthcare facilities because physical therapists can do more, and that we already possess the requisite skills, knowledge, and behaviors to be involved in this very uh, timely and very important activity of disaster risk reduction and management. And so it's just for us to be abreast of what's going on in terms of the RRM initiatives, try to hone ourselves, try to uh, involve ourselves in the formal trainings, and that let us not hesitate to join this niche of physical therapies in the RRM initiatives. Thank you so.
Thank you so much, Dr. Albra. Sir Francis, last words.
Yes, sir. So I believe I've already said a mouthful a while back, so I'll try to keep it short. I look forward towards participating and learning about disaster management with everyone so that we may ensure the safety of our fellow Filipinos.
All right. Again, thank you everyone for joining us in this conversation, and to our listeners and viewers. Go catch and read their study in the Philippine Journal of Physical Therapy. The link will be posted with this episode. And to everyone, thank you again, and always be kind. Thank you.